Take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value!
It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
Mass murder, torture, perjury, embezzlement, fraud, deception, treason. These are just a few of your many crimes against humanity. You will not win this war, for you are fighting the very essence of humanity.
Hi, welcome to Truth or Talk. I'm April Bowden.
I'm Virstyne Henry.
You can check out our website at truthertalk.com, find our archive shows, our essays, our store where we're selling the Conspiracy Realist t-shirt and Liam Shep's book, Official Stories. So you can also find, if you look for the tag Sarah Sotomayor, you will see a lot of stuff where we've had Sarah on our show many, many times, and I mention that because she is our guest in the next segment. The lovely, lovely Sarah Sotomayor. Wouldn't you say, Virstyne?
Oh, brilliant kid. Brilliant
person, beautiful inside and out, and just a gem in this world. She's just a lovely, lovely person, and you guys can check out her website. It's called sarahshealingjourney.wordpress.com, and that's where she's written her blog. That's Sarah, spelled S-A-R-A, sarahshealingjourney.wordpress.com, Sarah Sotomayor. And we'll give you links and all that stuff. You guys can go look at her, talk about it, and we'll let her talk about it in the next segment. But, we came into knowing who Sarah was because when we first started the show, I was friends with her on Facebook, and I had kind of corresponded with her a few times. We had talked. She had written to me a couple times with ideas for things too. She'd reached out to me for ideas for me to help my son, Aiden, who's vaccine damaged, and he's moderate to severely autistic. And she would, read the stuff that I had posted, read my essays and just things that I would be talking about on Facebook. And she came to me and said that she wanted to help me, and she, suggested certain things. And then I said, how do you know about this stuff? And she said she's vaccine damaged. And she was vaccine damaged by the Gardasil vaccine when she was a teenager. And we'll let her explain all of that in the next segment when we bring her on, and you can also look at it on her website and read about it. But yeah, she was really sweet, and she was so smart. And when I started to realize that, I said, oh, well, maybe we didn't have a radio show at the time.
Oh, yes, so that's right.
I said, well, maybe I can interview you, because I interviewed someone once before for my blog.
You wrote an article, right?
I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it. I interviewed a Marine in the military who had been severely damaged by the anthrax vaccine, and I had her. I just wrote it out, and she wrote her some questions, and she wrote back, and that was basically how I conducted the interview. So I was going to do that with Sarah, but then so I sent her a listing of questions, and she never got to it. And then later we started the show, and I said, well, why don't we just have you on the show? And so that's how we got Sarah on the show. And she moved us so much when she told her story. We kind of knew what was going on with her, but at the time she didn't have a blog or anything. She wasn't really writing about it and talking about it too openly yet. So we got her to talk about it on the show, and it was so. It had such a profound impact on us both, and she was so just smart and articulate, and she remembered these details about her life experience.
We were impressed and moved at the same time, I would say, right?
Yeah, we were pretty much blown away. It was like this girl, and I think she was 19 at the time, and she remembered things that had happened to her 6 years ago. But every single detail, she remembered every drug they put her on. She remembered every feeling that she had in her body from the reaction to the vaccine. And it was so moving and upsetting at the same time that we just became friends with her. We became very close to her because once you know Sarah, you love her and you don't want to let her go. That's just how it is, because Sarah's just that kind of person. You just, once you know her, she's just so great. It's like you want to just keep her in your life. And so we did, and over the years we've, or a year and a half since we've been doing our show, we have her on from time to time. She's come on and helped us with interviews, and sometimes we have her on just to do the intro, and then sometimes we have her on for the entire show. And today we're going to introduce her to the UCY, the new network, UCY TV, and so we want to just give her the segment, give her the air, so she can talk about her story, so everybody can get to know her better. And because we want you guys to know, she's our third member, she's a part of our family, and we definitely think that she's an important voice in this movement, and she knows a lot for sure. And definitely from personal experience, having been vaccine damaged, but also from research. Yeah. She's really smart, and she has done a lot of reading, and she's also knows a lot about how to heal too, because she's been working on that for a long, long time. So she knows a lot about a lot. She's just a cool kid. So it'll be good to talk to her and to bring her back on the show. But she helped us interview Max Egan. Yeah. She helped us interview Jan Irvin. She was on, just a ton of different intros we've done and intro versions. But she's a natural too. When you bring her in for interviews, she just knows how to jump in there and ask questions. Totally. When she gets thrown off by their response, she just hangs in there real cool. Yeah. Yeah. So she's great. So, but yeah, we'll be talking obviously about vaccines. We've done that a bunch of times on our show. And, the Gardasil vaccine, if you guys aren't aware of what's going on with this thing, it's, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just deadly. It's horrible. It's meaningless. It's useless. The HPV vaccine, first of all, HPV is a virus that causes genital warts. It doesn't cause cervical cancer. That's a lie. That's a hoax. And we've talked to Leslie Carroll Botha. I think that Sarah was on that show too, or she was in part of the show. And if you look at Leslie's work and research on this, HPV, it don't even cause cancer.
You don't even cause cancer. It don't even do it. It don't even do it. So it's that. But then there are going to be people that are going to say, well, how can you say that? I see commercials on it about it, all the time. And well, then sorry to say, you have a lot of reading to do, because you have to understand the whole medical industrial complex and how they lie to you. They do, yeah, they do. They do, but it's just hard, because I'm still trying to get a couple people that have children to listen to the first interview that we had with Sarah, while we break it down and talk about the HPV, and then just get them to do their own research, because these people are sending their kids out because they're scared. They don't want their kid to get cancer. They don't want, anything to happen to their kid, and they're sending their kids out, thinking that they're going to get protected from something, which is people have said that the shot actually causes cancer, or they're having all these girls that have been damaged, or boys too. And now mostly girls, because it's been targeted at girls, and now they're slowly targeting boys. But boys, the children, just say children that have been damaged by this flipping vaccine, severely. Yeah. And some have even died, and it's been banned in India. And advertising has been banned in France. I don't know why they haven't banned it in France, but I know they banned advertising.
They banned it here in the U.S. as well. It was, they used to show those commercials. Remember, everybody?
Oh, yeah. They don't. I didn't know that. So they're banned. The advertising is banned in the U.S.
Yeah, the advertising is banned, but they're still giving the vaccine. I mean, in some states they're trying to mandate it. They tried that in Texas. Governor Rick Perry. He had signed an executive order to push that thing through and forced it, mandated on the kids to attend school. But then the state of Texas, God bless them, were like, no, you're not going to force our kids to do something that we don't have approval for as parent, that takes away our parental rights, and they got rid of that thing really fast.
Does he have children?
Yeah, I think he
They're
does.
adults or they're kids, they're teenagers, do you know?
I don't know how old Prick Perry's kids are. He's a jerk, though. You know?
Oh, yeah, I know that. I wonder, the thing that
he's not too smart either. I remember when he was running for president, he was like hilarious. You could see all his drunken episodes on the GOP debates. They were hilarious. I used to just watch them just for fun. I used to laugh my ass off. They were so funny because he was so stupid. It was like, you know, just watching a comedy show. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, you know, I wonder if these politicians that push out, like, these vaccine bills, I wonder if they really understand how harmful they are. Or they really are, or they're, you know, and they really understand how harmful they are, and they won't have their own children do it, you know, or they really think that they're doing it for the greater good, you know? If they think that, you know, these, and they have their children take these shots too. I really wonder.
Right.
You know, and I wonder, like, if Bill Gates vaccinated his children.
Right.
You know? That would be great if you can find proof on that. Oh, Dr. Oz does it. We know that. We caught that sucker.
He admitted it. I mean, he admitted it. He said his wife is the one that is against the vaccines, and he says, you know, well, at home I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz, and Mr. Oz is told by his wife that, you know, she doesn't want to vaccinate the kids, but
yet he's promoting everybody else to get vaccinated, and if it's so dire and so dangerous, why wouldn't you vaccinate your own kids, even if your wife says why aren't you fighting with your wife about it if it's so, you know, or mandating, you know, or, you know what I mean, like, think that you would have your own kids vaccinated if it's that important.
It's true. I know. I know that's a good question. And as far as, you know, I know that I read a while back that the royal family, they don't vaccinate. And I don't know how that information is known for certain, but I do know that they've publicly come out and said that they use homeopathy. And if you are going to a homeopathic doctor, that I can tell you that they don't promote vaccination. Most of them don't, because they know that it's deadly and that it's dangerous. It's basically, you know, Russian roulette. You don't know if you're going to get damaged or not. Chances are you will, but if you just to the level is what, you know, but you'll get damaged to some degree, and it might not appear right away, and sometimes it will. So, but if you want to know more about the Gardasil vaccine, I mean, definitely check out Sarah's blog, but you can also check out sanevax.org, SANEVAX.org, and truthaboutgardasil.org, and also, as I mentioned before, Leslie Carol Botha and her research. You can just look her up. She's got a show called Holy Hormones Honey, and we've had her on our show twice, and she's always hilarious. And she knows a lot, but she's hilarious, and she's funny. She's got a good sense of humor, but she's also really smart, and she knows a lot about women's health issues, which that's her area of focus. But you were mentioning that the cervical cancer vaccine, actually, HPV vaccine, or Gardasil, as it's known in this country, I think it's Cervarix. In the UK, but yes, it does increase your risk of cervical cancer. The VAERS reporting in January of 2014, I'm getting this off the SaneVax website, by the way, said cervical cancer. These are reported reactions to the vaccine. And they said that there were in January of 2014, there were 72 reported cervical cancer that they said that the vaccine actually caused them to have cervical cancer, which is what the vaccine itself is supposed to prevent. So there's that. And there's, over 11,000 emergency room visits, over 200 extended stays in the hospital, over 4,000 serious reactions, 33,000 adverse events, 157 deaths, over 6,000 did not recover. Over 10,000 have been disabled. So it's a very serious thing. I mean, I'd say HPV is far less scary than the HPV vaccine.
Yeah.
You know, because HPV, as we said, there's a correlation, doesn't necessarily equal causation, as we talked about when we had Leslie on the show. And so HPV itself actually causes warts. It causes, a type of warts. And the vaccine is supposed to protect. First of all, there's 3 series of the vaccines. And a lot of people who've had reactions, won't have it the first time, but they'll have it the second or third time. Some do. Some have it right away, and the first time they start to have seizures and they flop and they get sick right away. But others, it might take the second or third vaccine. Most people did not make it to the third vaccine. That's what we found in a lot of the reporting. They go for 1 or 2, they get sick, and then they don't come back for the third. But anyway, so, the reaction vary, but they're all pretty bad. And HPV itself, so the vaccine is supposed to protect against 4 strands of HPV. And of these, I think 2 of them have been associated with cervical cancer, but they don't necessarily cause cervical cancer. What that means is that the person who had cervical cancer also had this particular strand of HPV. That doesn't necessarily mean that it caused it. It just means that they had it. But, so I don't know. I mean, and as we've talked about before, are vaccines effective? Do they protect people from anything? Do they, Virstyne?
No.
She just straight up said no.
No. And, I mean, it's a shame. I saw somebody, who was it? They were talking about vaccination, and they said, in the future, maybe 100 years from now, we're going to look back on vaccinations as a blemish on mankind. Kind of like, I don't know, when we didn't wash our hands. It's going to be like that. Seriously. And I think people have this, this notion that, we have all of this technology, that we're above and beyond making sticks as simple as that. But but we're not. We're far from it. And it has nothing to do with, physical, technological process. It has a lot to do with ego. And, they talk about, you get these people that come on your page or attack you, or when you write an essay, when I've written an essay about vaccines, and there are people that get angry and they're like, well, I believe in science. I'm like, well, yeah, science is great only to the degree that it's kept honest. And it hasn't been for a long time. So when you... I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go on.
I was just going to say, but they're corrupted in their idea of what science is.
Yeah.
Because they're actually, because if you research the vaccine science, you realize that there's more science to show you why you shouldn't take them than why you should.
Yeah.
There's actually very little that expresses why you should. If you go, when I was researching Gardasil, because I was looking into this a few years ago, and they had this bill in California that was allowing children as young as 12 years old to get vaccinated with the Gardasil vaccine without their parents' knowledge. That was any STD vaccine as well, so that, which at present is the HPV vaccine and the hepatitis B vaccine. So it was a way of them trying to get around the mandate. So they're not, because people protest, as we talked about in Texas, parents don't want their children to be mandated and forced into taking this vaccine. So they quash that. But this is a way of them, they're not putting it under mandate, but they're just doing it covertly by getting kids to, saying that kids can do it without their parents' consent.
Yeah.
And so, they're thinking that they're going to protect kids against, they won't be able to talk to their parents about them having sex. Oh, well, I can't tell my parents that I'm having sex, so I want to get, protected so that I won't get this sex virus. But, gross all around. You guys are perverts.
Evil motherfuckers.
You guys are perverts because these kids are 12. They're too young to be having sex anyway. And, and I'm sorry, people say, oh, you're in denial that kids won't be having sex. Well, look, I'm sorry, I would rather the kid not be able to get HPV. I would rather a child get HPV and then have to come to me, and then we go to the doctor and we get it and we have it out. We hash it out. Okay, you're too young to be having sex. No, I'm not. I love my boyfriend. Whatever. I don't care. As a parent, I'm a parent, and I can say I'm not in denial. I was a kid too. I was a teenager once. I understand all that. But it's just a matter of, trying to put the parents out of this, taking them out of the loop and put the state in their place and say, well, we can help you. We can, we'll protect you. We understand that you want to have sex with your boyfriend, so, we'll give you this vaccine, or we'll give you this, STD medication in case you get gonorrhea. We'll hook you up. Don't worry about it. And AIDS, by the way, too. So a kid can get diagnosed with HIV, which is a farce, and then come in and get a drug, a retroviral drug that
will kill them
without their parents' knowledge, that could potentially kill them, could destroy their health if not kill them. And the same with the vaccine, could destroy their health if not kill them. So they could come in and get this, and the parents won't know why, so they won't be able to report it. Because if their child, they don't know that their child was vaccinated, how are they going to know that that's what caused their death, right? So when this was going down in California, this is a law, by the way. It's they are allowed to do it in this state. So I was researching the Gardasil vaccine, and I just looked at Merck is the pharmaceutical company that makes Gardasil. I just read their insert. I read their own research on their own vaccine. I didn't go off, I didn't look at Mercola's or any of these other people. I just went and looked straight to the source. And what they'll tell you is straight up, they don't know if HPV causes cancer. They don't know if the vaccine will protect you. And even if it does, there are only 4 strands, and there's over 50, 60 strands of HPV that they say may be correlated to cancer, but this won't protect you against those. It'll only protect you against 2 of those, if it works at all, which they don't claim that it does. They claim they don't know. Okay? And this is the pharmaceutical company, okay, straight up telling you. All you gotta do is read. All you gotta do is read their insert, which is confusing. I don't blame people for not wanting to read it, because it's long, and they deliberately make it hard to read. And then they go on to tell you all the reactions. And the people that have gotten sick from it. And I can't remember, this was years ago, but there were a bunch that had seizures, spontaneous, there were a bunch that had seizures the minute that they took, before they reached the car. Okay? So when you get this vaccine, they tell you that you can't leave the doctor's office for 15 minutes because they don't want you to have a seizure, so that if you are walking to your car and you start having a seizure, you'll flop to the ground and you may have a head injury. So it's very serious. It's a very disgusting, deadly, horrible thing. And we talked about it before because we often wonder, we've compared what modern science is, or what they call modern science, or this medical industry, to the religious, occult kind of sacrifices and things like that. And I always thought that this looked like a ritualistic sacrifice now. And we mentioned it's mostly girls, so I envision these girls, these virgins, being thrown into a volcano and being sacrificed to the gods. I feel like that Gardasil, the science behind it, is about as scientific as these people who believe that they're throwing a virgin into the lava is going to bring them closer to God. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't, there's no, it's like they know that it's gonna hurt these people, and they just don't care because they're just willing to take the money and run, or they actually want to. So I don't know the answer. I can't tell you.
But when you take into account the whole medical industrial complex and all of the medicines that they push on people, all the vaccines and stuff, I will watch TV sometimes, and I will see they'll have a new drug for asthma medications, but then they'll have like 60 side effects for that one drug, and I'm just like, well, damn, I might as well just have asthma. I don't want rectal bleeding and impotence and paralysis and, all this other shit that can come with it, It's crazy. Yeah. And then you get to the point where you're just like, either these people are really stupid or they know exactly what they're doing. I mean, I'm talking about stupid, bumbling idiots.
Right, no doubt.
How do they, and the fact is people, I don't like to say people are stupid. I mean, I guess we've just been dumbed down. But even before I woke up to this stuff, I would jokingly, I remember, because I have asthma, I remember reading the insert for Advair. Because my doctor put me on Advair for a minute, and I stopped taking Advair because I remember reading the insert and it said something about like one of the side effects was like cancer or something like that. I was like, I don't want cancer.
Yeah,
like I might as well just have asthma. Like, what is up with that? So, you know, I know Saturday Night Live has made fun of pharmaceutical commercials.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is ridiculous, you know, but... Sorry, go on.
They actually did a really funny one on the HPV vaccine.
That's right, the doll. I'm sorry.
The doll that injected people. It was like a little girl's baby doll, and she'd be playing with it, and it would inoculate her immediately. Because I think they were making fun of all the states that were going, like Texas and California, that were giving these to kids younger and younger, these STD vaccines. And, you know, I'm glad they did something like that. It was really funny, actually. It was pretty good and pretty shocking. And Saturday Night Live doesn't usually delve into that stuff too much, you know, just a little bit. But it's hard not to notice, you know, that they're pushing this on kids younger and younger, too. And it's really creepy the way that they're doing this because, you know, it does seem very, like, sacrificial and all that. Because once you, like I said, you know, once you start doing the research on it, you go, how could they possibly not know? How could they not understand that this is so ineffective and useless? And yet, and then there's all this possibility of all this damage done. And then the other thing, too, is, like, if they say, well, if the best that they can do, the best that they can possibly do, if this thing worked at all, would be protect you against 2 strands of HPV, okay? Or that, I mean, there are 4 strands, but there are 2 that they claim are cancer causing, okay? Which they don't, but that's what they claim. But then, what if, let's say you get cervical cancer anyway? Well, what are they going to tell you? Oh, well, it must have been one of the other strands. One of the other 50 or 60 strands that could possibly cause cancer. You know, they don't, I mean, how are you going to know? How are you going to know the difference? So then there's no way that they can, unless somebody actually does the extensive testing to figure out which strand it is and to figure out all of that, and then they can actually prove that it was caused by one of the strands that, you know, and then they can actually prove that it was caused by that, which they can't. Yeah. So there's no way for somebody to really sue for it, you know, if they actually did find out that they, you know, caught HPV and it was one of the strands that was supposed to be protected in the vaccine, but it didn't protect them and they ended up getting cancer anyway. You know, it would be really hard for them to prove all of that because there's all these other strands. There is no actual known causation. So it's just a complete shim-sham on the wham-wham. There's like nothing about it that makes any sense whatsoever. Once you scratch the surface just a tiny bit. And if you look at, you know, these girls, if you go on the Truth About Gardasil page, for example, there's a banner at the top. There are these pictures of all these girls. They're all dead, okay? All those girls are dead. That because of this vaccine. That they put their pictures up there. And so it's, I don't know what to say about that, other than that, you know, I mean, I don't know. It's very sad, very disheartening, and I would think that, you know, people would want to know that in order to protect their families. So those young girls are all dead. Okay, and those were just the first ones. Those were years ago taken. Since then, there's been a lot more. So, you know, as I said, what did I say? It was like, what is this? The Sane Vax has the listing, and they say there were 157 deaths. Those are just the ones that have been reported. So
how many is it? Like 10% that actually that they report? Actually, or is it lower than that?
I think it's lower, but that's the claim, is that 10% people actually report, because, you know, reporting a vaccine, and the VAERS reporting system is really super dumb. I mean, they don't really, it's very difficult to get in there, and, you know, they only really, once you start the process, it's very long and arduous. A lot of people kind of drop out of continuing to fill out all their forms and whatnot, so then they won't report those. People that don't continue to write them. So it's highly unlikely that there's full reporting. In fact, and then to put that together, because then what happens when you go to the doctor and you say, you know what, she's been sick ever since she had the Gardasil vaccine. Well, what's the doctor going to tell you?
That it's not the vaccine's fault.
Exactly. So then what do those people say?
Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know what could possibly be going wrong. I don't know. That's what they're going to say.
Well, right. They're going to say, well, it's a big mystery, and we don't know what caused it, even though you know, because you were there and you saw it, and you know that this girl got sick after she had the vaccine. You know, I went to this conference a long time ago. I went to the Autism One conference, and there was a protest put on by the Center for Personal Rights, which is an organization that is all in favor of just, you know, being able to have your own rights to choose what medical procedures you want. And they're against forced mandates of vaccines. So anyway, there was this woman there, and she was talking about her daughter, and she couldn't even finish discussing it because she would just start crying. And she had this girl who was perfectly healthy. She brought her in for the Gardasil vaccine. I think it was the second round. And she started seizing. She started having seizures right away. And she basically didn't stop having seizures. And the doctors told her that not only did the vaccines not cause it, but it was in her head. Okay? That she was not really having epileptic seizures, that she was actually just faking it.
Oh.
And this girl, she was like 16 or so, and they said she was a drama queen, and she was faking it.
Oh, I would give that doctor a good kick into the privates.
Right.
Like, I would just drive me so crazy. Sorry.
Yeah, he would deserve a beat down, for real. And so, anyway, so he, they were claiming that it wasn't caused by the vaccine, and that it was all in her head. It was psychosomatic, and she was just doing it to get attention.
Well, you know, psychosomatic is what doctor says, but they don't fucking know. They don't want to admit it, but they don't want to admit, you know, what's causing it, too. Anytime doctors use psychosomatic, I always, you know.
Right, they just don't know. And so what they did, they went to the length of surveilling her. They put her in a waiting room, and they didn't tell her that she was being on camera. And so she would have no motivation to fake it because she was alone and no one could see her. Mm-hmm. And they watched her have seizure. So then they proved that it wasn't in her head, that she was actually having these seizure activities. So then they finally, performed an EEG on her to get the activity that was going on. And sure enough, she was having them, every 5 minutes. And, yeah. Because not all of them were grand mal, mm-hmm. So some of them were petite mal, which means that they're small. You can't see them necessarily. Or
your body doesn't react. It's not like she's on the floor and convulsing, right? That's petite mal, right? Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And it could be, she might have a staring spell, or there might be some small sign, but sometimes there's no sign at all. But she was also having grand mal seizures, and I mean, the girl was in a wheelchair. She was not walking. She was having seizures all day long, and they were saying that it wasn't caused by the vaccines. And they had the gall to try and tell her that she wasn't even having them. I mean,
yeah, that's a show we're putting together. I think in the future we're going to do one on gods and doctors as deities.
No doubt.
When you get to the point, but the thing that really pisses me off too, and I have to make my disclaimer that I have had some really nice Western doctors, and I think that they meant well, when they helped me with some of the issues I was going through. But at the same time, there's this whole thing about the whole, doctors can't be wrong, or doctors don't lie, or doctors know everything, that people need to get out of their head,
Right.
And the fact that too, it's it should be a relationship with the doctor and patient. So I think the doctor's first reaction should be if a patient tells them that they think something happened, they should listen to the patient instead of pushing them away and telling them that they don't know what they're talking about because, I spent 12 years in medical school and I'm better than you. Basically, that's what he's saying.
Right. And why would they say that about her? Was she a known hypochondriac before that? Probably not, And so there's no reason to doubt what she has to say about it. Plus, she's doing it in front of you. Do you think she's that good of an actress? She's just that good at faking it? So it was just, who is this guy? What nerve to sit there and tell them that they didn't know what they were doing and what they were talking about. To the point that they had to surveil her and, catch her on tape doing it without anybody knowing, without her knowing that they were watching her. But I mean, I don't know. So this vaccine is associated with a huge history of people having seizures. It's a huge history of people developing narcolepsy. So it's that disease where you fall asleep. Yeah. And you don't, in fact, I think that's why they banned it in India, because they found a bunch of people were having narcoleptic episodes. And so there was a whole cluster of that going on. And so it's also just, and we'll let Sarah get into the details of this a little bit more, but they've also found it to have this like recombinant DNA, which is basically like a genetically engineered DNA that they put in.
Well, because, so the HPV virus, if it's a virus that they're growing, they have to grow it in a live host, which is in an animal. It has to be an animal, like a monkey or a chicken. I don't know what exactly. Depending on the vaccine, the host that they use to grow the virus differs, so I don't know what type of animal host they use to grow the virus. Because you can use a petri dish for bacteria, but for a virus, you have to have a live host. So it's like when you extract the virus or harvest the virus, you're taking part of that animal DNA with you. There's no way to remove it completely. Yeah. So you're injecting it into a human body on a molecular level, and it's sad to say that when you do that, you don't become a superhero. You don't get like monkey strength. It fucks you up royally in a bad way, and it's hard to get out. I don't want to say impossible. I don't want to say anything's impossible, but it's really hard to get out of your body.
Right, and then what's weird about that is like, why would they think that a genetically engineered version of the virus is going to protect you from the organic one that you would contract? Like, that's not even the same thing.
Because they have this mentality that science is better than nature. That's the thing that we're dealing with too. It's like this like technocracy, right? That science is better than nature, and that goes into this whole ideal that we are evolving, and and people think the way that we show our evolution or our progress as humans is through inventing things. And sometimes we invent things, or not saying we, me and you, but human beings invent things that maybe don't really even need to be invented in the first place, but it's kind of like an ego. It's an ego show. To show that we're bigger and better than nature.
But it doesn't even make sense, though. It's like, even if you were trying to go on the basis of, like similars, the law of similar, which says that, something similar can, help you develop antibodies to another thing that's similar, and therefore you're going to develop immunity to it. But if it's genetically engineered, it's not even similar. It's like, then it negates that, so it's like they're not even logical. And this, research was done by SaneVax, who we mentioned earlier, sanevax.org, you can find them. They had, tested the vials. They purchased them from the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Spain, Poland, and France. And they found they all had it. They all had this recombinant DNA in them. So, creepy. It's just gross and creepy, and eugenics.
Mad science. Pseudoscience.
Pseudoscience, for
That's
real.
the real pseudoscience. It's so funny that when you're anti-vaccine, you get accused of being a pseudoscientist.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's the opposite.
Remember we got threatened to be reported to the pseudoscience page? I was so scared. I was like, no, don't put me on Facebook.
Oh.
Anything but that. Anything.
The pseudoscience page. Yeah, it's a group on Facebook called I fucking hate pseudoscience.
This guy was like, we're gonna report you to the pseudoscience page. We're like, oh no.
Oh God, we were laughing. We were like, please do. I'd love it. I just send them pictures of kitties with guns.
I know.
Like, what? Well, you're not speaking science. Wow, yeah. I'd be like, yes, I am. Because those people don't deserve your time. They deserve your ridicule. No, I mean, don't go out of your way to do it, but if they attack you, it's like, don't even bother to give them real science, because they won't read it. They won't read this information.
Nothing's going to be better. They've already made up their minds.
Exactly.
Which I had to learn. I used to think, I used to be like, well, if they just read and if they really, if they just really try and see where I'm coming from, but I think the good thing about that too, if you're in a Facebook altercation or drama, like on a Facebook gang fight.
Yeah, exactly.
There are going to be people that are going to be, that are probably in the middle. that have been watching it that have been scared to maybe speak up, or say anything, and they might look into what you post. So just be aware of that too. Beware of the people that you do want to inform and maybe give them some information so they know they have a choice. Because what we do, with April and the situation with her son and Sarah and her situation, I know you've told me this before, the thing that matters most to you is just helping people so they don't have to suffer the same fate that you guys have suffered.
Right.
That's the only thing. Yeah. No money in it. You're not getting a book. You're not like working for the CIA. I don't know what else. You're not whatever else they like to, accuse you of being. That's not the case. In fact, the people that are promoting vaccines are they're more likely to be doing it for monetary purposes.
Right.
Yeah,
definitely, and exactly. So on that note, I think we're going to take a short break, and then when we get back, we're going to be talking to Sarah, and she will be describing her own personal experience with all of this that we're talking about. So please stay tuned, because after the break, Sarah Sotomayor. Stay tuned.
Bye-bye.
My name is Kirsty.
My name is Sarah Sotomayor.
My name is Brooke Kreger.
My name is Jessica Faye Erickson.
My name is Elisa Duckwood.
My name is Brittany Feist.
Alexis Rule.
My name is Christina Tarcell.
My name is Megan.
I'm a newlywed.
And I'm a college freshman.
I was a senior at Lafargeville Central School.
I was a healthy, vibrant, and fun-loving individual.
I was an honors student in art and philosophy.
Before Gardasil, I loved to play soccer and softball.
I loved basketball, cheerleading, anything to do with the outdoors.
After watching my sister have an ultrasound while she was carrying her child, I found my passion. I wanted to watch life grow in the early stages.
Before Gardasil, I was always out in nature, swimming, biking, playing all kinds of sports.
Jump on some things, ride my bike.
Before Gardasil, I loved photography, swimming, hiking, biking, and overall loved doing fun things.
I played on the tennis team, and I was art editor of the campus literary magazine.
I dreamt of becoming a mom.
My doctor recommended the Gardasil vaccine. She gave me all the right reasons.
Days after the shot, I was feeling dizzy.
Feeling lightheaded.
Now I'm not able to do much.
My joints and my muscles ached.
I started having really bad headaches.
Migraines.
Nosebleeds.
I'm in pain all the time.
Seizures.
Are you still having seizures?
Yes.
Excruciating body pain.
I cannot walk.
Then I started having fainting spells.
Passing out.
I cannot use my hands.
I have gastroparesis and a damaged vagus nerve.
Autoimmune issues.
I was diagnosed with ITP.
I developed a condition called premature ovarian failure.
I started having bad stomach pains. My death came shortly after these symptoms began.
Just 40 hours after my last Gardasil shot, I died.
18 days after that third shot of Gardasil, I was found dead in my bed at college.
I am not a coincidence.
This is not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence.
I'm not a coincidence.
I have over 80 of the symptoms from after the Gardasil shots. It is not a coincidence.
The shots did something.
Medical experts have determined that I died from an adverse reaction to Gardasil. My death is not a coincidence.
My parents and I were not told of the possible risks and serious adverse reactions
I could be facing or symptoms I could develop.
I was never told of the adverse effects that Gardasil could have.
I was not told there's no evidence that HPV vaccines will prevent cervical cancer.
That the rates of cervical cancer in this country are very low, preventable without vaccination.
I have never thought my doctor could make me fight for my life every single day. I'm gonna please stop, Mom.
I was never told that I could be one less mother in the world.
I could be one less on the field.
That I would be one less person walking.
Did they tell us that you could become brain damaged?
No.
No mention of any side effects. I was never told that I could be one less.
Hours later, my mom found me. I was only 17. I was not told I could be one less person in my family.
I was not told I could be one less young woman in the world.
If you know any doctors, scientists, please ask them
to help us.
To demand for further independent research
and congressional hearings for Gardasil and other HPV vaccines,
as they've done in other countries, and to find treatments for medical symptoms and diagnoses following Gardasil.
Because I am worth it and I'm not a coincidence.
Because you're worth it and it's not a coincidence.
Because I am worth it and I am not a coincidence.
My life was worth living, and my death is not a coincidence.
My life was taken from me by a vaccine I didn't even need.
They need to stop, and they need to be held accountable for what they've done.
Stop it, child, please. Please.
I am not a coincidence. I am worth it. I am not a number. I am a human being.
Hello, thanks for having me on your radio. Even though we're not from a famous rock and roll band, if we were, even though we sound a little like we are, we definitely wear a Conspiracy Realist t-shirt, because they're gear, aren't they? Oh yeah, they're really gear. I want to write a song about them. Conspiracy Realist t-shirts at truthatees.com. I gotta think of the middle eight. Shop.truthatees.com. What does that mean? It's the internet. What's that? I don't know. It's a net. It's between things. Shop.truthatees.com. What's that? It's where you get Conspiracy Realist t-shirts. Oh, gear.
Hi, welcome back to Truth or Talk. Thanks for listening. And as we talked about in the intro, we're going to be talking today to our good friend, Sarah Sotomayor, our third Truth or Talk member. And she's a good friend of ours. We've interviewed her before, and she's been on our show several times, and we wanted to introduce her to our new audience here at UCY TV. So she's got a blog. You can find it at sarahshealingjourney.wordpress.com, where you can learn all about her and how to contact her and how about her injury from Gardasil and how the things that she's doing to try and recover from it, and just the things that she writes about, things that are on her mind, and so on and so forth. So please welcome to the show, Sarah Sotomayor. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, guys. Hey, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
Great. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. And then, as I mentioned before, you know, we've interviewed you in the past. The first time we had you on, you went into great detail about what happened to you after you had the Gardasil vaccine. And you don't necessarily have to go into as much detail as you did that first time, because our listeners can go back into the archive and find that show if they're interested. However, just to kind of give them a brief summary to this new audience, can you kind of explain what happened, how old you were, and what's been going on since?
Yeah, sure. I was 13 years old when I had HPV Gardasil vaccine. It was the only one I had. It's a series of 3, but I only had one Gardasil vaccine. And I had allergy shots before, so I wasn't afraid of needles. And as soon as I got the shot, it hurt like nothing I've ever felt. Felt like a metal bat slamming right into my right arm. And, you know, since that day, everything has changed drastically. So what happened, not too long after the vaccine, maybe within the first week, my arm just wouldn't stop hurting. It just kept getting worse. And then I would get very lightheaded, very dizzy. And then 2 weeks in after getting the vaccine, I started getting nosebleeds, and consistently. And we were like, well, maybe it's my allergies. But we called my GP anyway and said, look, you know, she's having nosebleeds, she's feeling lightheaded, and the pain in her arm isn't going away. And she said, well, it's perfectly normal. You know, it's not the vaccine. Everything's fine. So we just kept kind of explaining those symptoms away to, you know, seasonal allergies. And then the pain just spread right up into my the right side of my neck. And it just kept traveling. The pain started from my right arm, went into my other arm, and then just down into my legs and everywhere. And I just kept getting worse, more fatigued, more nosebleeds, missing school a lot more, having to take naps when I never had to before. And finally, within that year, closer to the end of that school year, my right knee swelled up 3 times the size than it normally was. We had the fluid checked and blood tests, and it came up that I had an autoimmune disorder, rheumatoid arthritis, which is really vaccine injury. It can look like autoimmunity because the body's attacking itself, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's categorized into one particular disease, which we didn't know at the time. And so from that point on, after finding out that diagnosis, I was put on drugs, prednisone, methotrexate, which is chemo. First it was pill form, then it was shot form. Enbrel, Remicade, Mobic, Tramadol, which is a derivative of morphine, and morphine's a derivative of heroin. So, and the doctor at the time said, oh, well, I don't have the personality to become addicted to it, which is ridiculous because it's a chemical reaction in the body. And so, you know, from that point, after all the drugs, it got worse. I had a chemo overdose, and at that point we just stopped all the drugs except for Tramadol and prednisone, and I weaned off of Tramadol. It took a lot longer to get off prednisone, but we started seeing a naturopathic doctor until it got really dire. And I was about like 65 pounds, and we were taken to we were told about a homeopath in Arizona, and we spent 3 weeks there getting me better. I did a lot of natural biomedical treatments such as ultraviolet blood irradiation, nutritional IVs, homeopathic protocols, things to restore the gut such as reforestations and heavy dosage of probiotics. And that really saved my life and put me on the right path to alternative healing. And really just after doing that, within about 3 years, I was becoming really healthy, started walking. It seemed like things were getting better. And then one thing that I haven't said yet is that I contracted Lyme. And it was weird because I didn't roll around in the grass, especially at the time that I was very sick. And the test, you're able to trace the enzyme back a certain amount of months, and it was in January of 2008, which is when I was at my worst. And so we're like, you know, when we first heard that, my mom, my parents, and I, we were like, well, it's in the vaccine. It couldn't have come from anywhere else, especially the way it happened, because there were so many co-infections that came along with it. And it was so difficult to get rid of that it just didn't seem like a natural form, and I didn't have a tick bite either. Right. So, the Lyme, after a number of years of keeping it dormant and trying to deal with it that way, it came back, and it became undormant, and it just like took me back 5 years. And since then, I've been really trying to recover my health. I stopped walking after that. I'm still not walking right now. It really messed with the joints in my hands. So I was able to get rid of the Lyme. It took about, I had a fever for 2 months. And then what happened, we got a BCX Ultra Rife machine. And that really just kind of took care of the rest of it. Because what ends up happening with Lyme, you get a lot of die-off, and sometimes the die-off can be worse than just having Lyme. So once we were able to clear that up, it just kind of, we were able to get rid of it, and we had blood tests confirm that I don't have Lyme anymore. So right now, I'm dealing with a sort of metabolic issue where my energy just won't, I just can't get enough energy, so I have to like eat every 2 hours, and it's not diabetes, because we had that tested and autoimmune tested and came up fine. So right now we're just doing a lot of blood tests to figure out what that is and to help clear the inflammation. And right now I'm finally dealing with aluminum, which is in Gardasil, and that hasn't really come up until probably summer of 2013. I hadn't really started dealing with the aluminum until that point. And I'd have to say the aluminum is the most difficult metal I've ever had to deal with, because even though it may just be a metal, there can be things that can attach to the heavy metals like parasites or viruses. So it makes it a lot more difficult. And plus aluminum isn't really like a metal like mercury. It's, you know, it's a soft metal, so it's a lot harder to clear the body. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, and we've, you know, because we've known you for a while, and we've known that you're one of our first guests on our show. We've been kind of there with you as far as you're trying to recover from this, and it's such a difficult thing, as you know. I'm aware because I'm still working really hard on my son, and you probably experienced this, Sarah, where you start to see some strides, you start to feel things go, and then just bam, it just, you kind of go back.
Yeah,
you don't know. And you don't know what happens. Sometimes it's triggered by a sickness, as you've talked about before. You'll get a flu, or you'll get a cold or something, and then you just, bam, your body just goes back, and you know you lose
so much
2 years of progress.
Yeah,
and it's very frustrating and confusing. It can be hard to pin because, you know, like you say, there's aluminum, there's all these other things, and aluminum's in all the vaccines, by the way. It's not just the Gardasil vaccine. And aluminum is very difficult to get rid of because aluminum is actually it's to try and slow things down. It's actually to prevent things from being able to get through it. You know, if you've ever used like aluminum foil to cook, you'll notice how it's like the reason it works is because it concentrates the heat inside, you know. And so if you stick that into your body, what happens is it slows down the blood. Some people think it actually triggers when the vaccine is initially injected into your arm or wherever they put it. It triggers a stroke because the body the blood does not receive oxygen to the brain for a second.
Yeah, and a lot of girls who have gotten the Gardasil vaccine have had strokes. So, and I totally agree. I've noticed. Lime definitely makes your blood sludgy. Any heavy metals makes that happen, but, you know, from clearing all that, I still notice my blood, the circulation isn't as great as it should be, and there's definitely some oxidative stress happening from the aluminum. So.
Yeah, and so, can you describe, oxidative stress is something I'm familiar with, but if our audience doesn't know what that means, can you explain what that is?
Well, I'm really just learning about it myself. But what I notice, the effects that oxidative stress give me, I get really lightheaded or dizzy, and it's just like hard for my body to function, period. Especially when it's really easy to tell when you're detoxing a heavy metal. Like I've noticed, I've detoxed mercury before, and that was cake compared to aluminum, and mercury really wasn't that easy either. But what I noticed is when I can feel the aluminum just kind of surging through my system, what I do is I take a lot of chlorella, kelp, probiotics, because actually, you know, the bacteria in our gut really should be the bind that we have for certain environmental stresses, but because, you know, we pretty much have had antibiotics through our lives, that just gets rid of that natural bind in our system. So, chlorella kelp and microsilica and a couple other things. There are certain components in apple juice like that can bind aluminum. But yeah, definitely I noticed that my circulation becomes poor. Go ahead.
Is it the pectin in the apples?
Yes, the pectin.
Is green apple juice more effective because it has a higher amount of pectin?
I haven't tried that yet, actually. I've more done just the red apple. But I'll have to try that because...
Granny Smith. That's what they use in the, what's that cleanse? The gallbladder cleanse. I actually did that. I drank green apple juice and they said that it has the pectin is more concentrated or something. So maybe that would be good for you to try, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't tried that at all.
Right, and it's but it's an ongoing struggle, and it's something that you've been working on for a long time. And some of the things that you've tried, you've been working with homeopath, you've done craniosacral therapy, you know, energy medicine, and on and on and on. So and it's very taxing on you physically sometimes having detox as well.
Oh, yeah.
Would you say does that, you feel the effects of that?
Yeah, it's very exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I notice is that, my son will, in some ways, the detox will then increase sort of some of his negative symptoms or his autistic behaviors like self-stimulatory behavior or aggression or hyperactivity. And I attribute a lot of that to detox. We had an experience recently where he was having what appeared to be stomach flus. He would get very, very violently sick.
Oh, no.
But it would only last for no more than 6 hours. The shortest period it lasted was for about a half an hour. And then it would last, and then I saw one that I thought he was coming down with something, but then it only lasted for 6 hours and he was done. And so I'm going, okay, well, this is weird. And it happened several times. It's where I was like, well, one time it can happen, you might think food poisoning.
Yeah.
But then it continues to happen, and you can't pin it to any particular food. I started talking to the acupuncturist and to the homeopath and a lot of people. They were going, well, it could be he's just that sensitive to detoxification. And so, you probably experienced this as well. It's like you have to then slow down.
Oh, yeah, it's
detox.
You cannot go too fast. I mean, the other day, we have MSM lotion, which pulls aluminum, it goes through every heavy metal, but aluminum especially. Right. And we just put it on my skin, and I had put it on a few times before that, and it just sent me into a massive detox, and it was just like it moved too fast, too soon, and too much, and it was just I had heart palpitations. I felt sick. I thought I was gonna, throw up, and it just took at least 4 hours for me to really calm down and get better. We had to take so many binds. It was ridiculous. But yeah, whenever I had Lyme, I had that kind of same thing that Aiden had, where you have that bout of throwing up for a while and then it just stops. Right. That happened to me a few times.
Have you looked into thyroid imbalance?
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that we're having tested. We're just waiting for the results. I'm getting a full blood workup. So it's going to be checking hormonal panels, my organ panels, sugar metabolism. So
right. We had someone brought that up to me recently. We had there's a chiropractor in the area, and I was explaining this, which is what happens to my son Aiden, is that he has sort of an up and down of symptoms. And we've been testing for allergies, and we've been kind of looking at food sensitivities, and over the years, a lot of the doctors and the people who we've worked with have said, take a food diary, see what's bothering him. Well, it's everything that bothers him.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, I can't pin it to, I can't say, well, he's allergic to this definitively, because some things that come up on allergy tests don't seem to be a problem, and then other things that come up that don't come up seem to be a problem, and then a food that might not be a problem one day is a problem another day. So it's like,
exactly.
I don't know how to say, well, these are allergies, because they don't really present like normal allergies. They just are. Once he eats, I see an increase in hyperactivity. I see an increase. He's bloated. He's, immediately his stomach is extended, his belly, and he starts getting hyper, and he starts doing a lot of stimming, and I can see that he's dysregulated. And so I'm like, I can't pin it to anything. And so I was telling this to the chiropractor, and I was saying, please help me, because this guy specializes in reversing allergies. And I said, and I sort of talked about some of the sicknesses that he had and the immune system problems that he had, and he said to look into thyroid imbalance, because what you experience is this one thyroid is elevated, and the other so it's a hyperactive thyroid, and while the other is underactive, and then they go back and forth. And so you have where it teeters between an immune response, which you see with a typical sickness, and an allergy, and you're constantly seeing these changes, and so you might see behaviors go up and down as well. So we see with my son that he might have a spike in aggression, or he might have a spike in hyperactivity, these things that I don't like, these negative types of behaviors, and then he'll get sick. he'll get a fever, and then it will go down for a little while, and then he'll be fine, and then it will go back up again. It's like this constant seesaw, and I'm sure
that can be. I don't mean to interrupt, but that can also be TTFD, polythiamine B1, because for a while this summer my temperature was just sporadic. I would have a fever, like a low-grade fever, and then it'd go down, and then I'd have a low-grade fever, and it would just, be like that throughout the entire day. And once I started taking a B1 supplement, that went away. And that B1 can become lowered by having a heavy metal issue, and plus the whole allergy thing, like I noticed if I'm detoxing, I can get an allergic reaction from the toxins I'm detoxing. It won't even be food sometimes. It'll be what I'm detoxing, and that's difficult because the only way you get it out is detoxing, and so it just causes inflammation and a lot of pain with it.
Right. And then sometimes you have to detox, like we were saying before, it's so taxing on your body.
Yeah.
You have to do it slowly, but in the meantime you're still, having these issues reoccurring over and over again. And it's really, really hard. So that, I guess the point that we try to make to our audience is, really consider whether or not you want to vaccinate. I would say not.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist, which means you can trust me.
Yeah.
So, because I'm just a person.
Yeah, you don't have anything to gain from it. You're not.
I have nothing to gain from it.
No, and no ties to any pharmaceutical companies and.
Right, and I haven't been so utterly indoctrinated.
Yeah.
You're not being paid for it either.
I'm not being paid. I wish.
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid. And then Sarah, and Virstyne and I, you can trust us because none of us are doctors or scientists. We're just people who have done our own research and, are self-taught in all of this. And, investigated this independently. And we have personal experience, but then you, Sarah, are like us in that sense that you're not only, when you experienced it yourself, you're also a very curious person, you're a very smart person.
Yeah.
So you want to go down and kind of figure out, when something like this happens, you didn't just go, oh, woe is me. You went, gosh, what happened? I want to know
what happened.
Yeah,
it's like I can't not know. Or I'll worry, and it's just too much stress. And whenever I research, it just takes a burden of stress off. It's like, why wouldn't you want to figure it out?
There are those
even
people
if you're
that
not,
are.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to say, but there are those people that are like, oh, that's just the way things are.
I know, it's so ridiculous.
They worry. Those are the people that worry.
I know, and then they ask you, and then they're like, well, what should I do? And it's like, well, here's extensive research, here's what I know, here's articles to read, and this is what I would do, this is what I've done, this is what's worked, and then they don't do it.
And then they're like, you're reading too much into it. Yeah, they keep complaining, or they say, oh, you're reading too much into it. Or you've done too much research.
And then it's like, it's like, I can't deal with you. I don't care about what you go through anymore because I have enough to deal with. And there are people who, I appreciate the people who, if they come to me or message me on Facebook and ask about my story and ask, if they have a certain ailment, what I would do or what I've done. And, and then they're receptive and they're like, oh, thank you, yeah, I'm going to try that. It's great. But when people are just, they just want to ask and don't really plan on doing it, it's incredibly annoying.
Oh, yeah, with anything. But I mean, there's this doctor that's had some connection. I think he takes credit for curing Magic Johnson from AIDS or HIV. I don't know if he had full-blown AIDS, but he's not sick anymore. Mm-hmm. And he's an herbalist, basically.
Yeah.
And he's world-renowned. And I watched a lecture on him one day, and he's not a doctor. He didn't go to medical school. And there was a comment that said, well, this guy, once I read his bio and found out he wasn't a doctor, I immediately turned off the lecture. And I'm like, how closed-minded are you? You can't learn from somebody. You have to get your information from somebody that's a doctor, instead of somebody that's actually cured somebody, that's had experience. Like, we were talking about this the other day. the guy that runs Quack Watch, he has all of these like certificates and has won all these, supposedly from, reading his bio, he's won all of these awards and, but I'm like, he's going after people that, like Dr. McCullough, who's actually cured people from diseases. And I'm not going to the person that has 10, 15, awards, that's cured nobody. I'm going to Dr. McCullough, that's actually cured somebody. So if you're telling these people, giving these people remedies and ideas of things that have helped you to get better, and they're still like not, willing to take it in. I mean, there's a point where I've realized I think there's just some people that want to suffer. Either they want the attention, or I don't know what it is, or they're too lazy to make a lifestyle change, because a lot of the remedies, for curing all of these diseases changing your
lifestyle.
Yeah, lifestyle changes, which it's not hard. It's like eat apples and not like GMOs, or not like, processed food, or, eat healthier or exercise more. It's not hard in the sense that it's, rocket science, but it's hard socially, I guess, too. There's social pressures with having to make a lifestyle change.
I know.
Cravings.
Yeah, I notice it's food with people. Like, they don't want to change their diet. They don't want to cut things out. And I totally get it. I was totally pissed off when everything was just taken away. It's just, it's just like corn, wheat, gluten, dairy, soy, nightshades. What the hell's left? What am I going to eat now?
Yeah.
And is it going to taste good? But you have to try. It's either you keep eating, junk, or you can get better. You have to pick. And if you just want to keep eating junk, then you either haven't suffered long enough, or you don't want to get better enough.
Right. Yeah, it's true. And when we had to take out, one of the hardest things, I think, to take out, and from my experiences over these years, is sugar. Sugar is such a hard thing to take out, not only because it tastes good, but and it's addictive, but because it's in everything. So once you make the decision to remove sugar from your diet, it's like you're making everything from scratch. You're doing everything, and that's it, and it's been that's a really hard thing to do, but it's that from what I've seen, I tried so many times to point allergies, and I just really can't do it, but I can pin that sugar, less sugar, makes Aiden feel better. It makes him have better behaviors, and it's really not that complicated. But it is that is so difficult for people to accept.
And that goes for everybody, April. Not just people with autism or allergies or have been vaccine damaged and sugar's poison for everybody.
Right.
I think people react to it in different ways, but it's poison. It's crack. I joke about it with one of my friends about it being crack, because if it weren't so readily available and so cheap and in everything, I honestly think people will be like robbing liquor stores for sugar, Seriously. And a lot of these foods, but it's just that's people rob stores for drugs and stuff because it's not readily available or it's expensive and it's not, but sugar, it's everywhere. At any Gap store, any store, people walking down the street selling sugar, their trucks, ice cream trucks, driving down the street selling sugar, commercials promoting sugar, Coke and soda everywhere. It's everywhere. And then in the toothpaste.
I can't stand sugar personally. I've never been able to handle sugar. Like when I was younger, like Hershey Kisses, I couldn't take it. I hated it. I'm just not a big sugar person. I never have been.
Are you a salt person?
I'm a salt person.
Yeah.
I love salty stuff.
Yeah.
That's what's hard about this, is because nightshades are the worst for me. I really wish I could do nightshades. If I could have like tomato sauce with something, or peppers, because then I could have spices.
Yeah.
I'd be set. I could do this no problem. I don't even care about bread.
I love bread. I can't have bread, and that's what's fucking me up. Excuse my language. That's what's messing me up. I love bread. Oh my god. And I can't have bread right now because I'm trying to cure my asthma, and it makes a huge difference. Like I'll have a slice, and within a few minutes I'll have pizza.
Oh god.
Yeah, I'm cutting pizza out now. Maybe later I'll try and figure out a way where I can make a crust, maybe out of coconut flour or something. I'm doing mostly raw right now, and I'm just going to wait a few months and see where I am. And I steam like broccoli, and I do bake sweet potatoes, but other than that, I can't have bread. And I was so mad, April. I called April. I was like, hey, April, like, what's a good bread? What's a good type of gluten-free bread that I can try? Because I was like, well, maybe I can try gluten-free bread. And I forgot, what was the brand you used?
Food for Life.
Food for Life. So I went and I got Food for Life, and they had all these different brands. I was really excited. And I went home and I tried it like 10 different ways, and I called April, and I was like, fuck you, April. I'm sorry. This bread tastes horrible. Anyway, I tried toasting it. I tried making French toast. I tried it plain. I tried letting it sit. I mean, it was awful.
Have you ever, can you do, like, bread that has rice in it, like has a rice flour in it?
Yeah, I've tried. That's nasty, too.
Okay, well, I'm gonna send you the bread that I have, because it tastes like bread. It really does. I'm not screwing with you.
Okay.
It really does. Like, you can toast it, you can make it with a sandwich, and it feels like bread. Like, the texture is like bread.
Okay, if it's not, Sarah, I'm gonna come and get you. I'm coming out.
Well, our house, I mean, we bread's not, I mean, we're not even doing anything grain at all right now. We're doing no grain. And when I say eliminate sugar, I didn't see an improvement. We eliminated sugar long ago. I didn't see an improvement in Aiden until we eliminated honey for almost every fruit.
Even raw honey.
Raw honey. No honey. I mean, or very, very little. No fruit except for very low sugar fruits, which we were like, I think we were green apples, certain berries, and what else? Pomegranate juice, and that was about it. And I was making his candy. I was with sweetening. Oh, cranberries. You can have the very low sugar fruits like lemons, limes, and cranberries, and I was sweetening them with stevia. And that was it, and that was all we were having, and then that's when we finally started to see a decrease in his hyperactivity. But that was really, really hard to keep up, and so now we're moving into the GAPS diet, or the SCD, which is specific carbohydrate diet, which is grain-free, and the only sugar allowed on this diet is fruits. Most fruits are allowed, and honey. But because they're monosaccharides, you have to have only the simple sugars. So,
do you think it's like he can't break them down?
He can't break anything down. His gut is so leaky.
Oh, no.
He has so much leaky gut, so much inflammation in the gut that I think that everything gets into his blood, and that's why things present as allergies.
That's what happened to me. Yeah, in the very beginning, like before we dealt with it, like everything would bother me. It didn't matter what it was.
Yeah. Exactly. So we have to do a lot of cleanses. We have to be constantly cleansing with aloe vera and just be, cleaning out his system all the time, vitamin C. And then I give him his vitamin supplements, but they seem to irritate him quite a bit as well. He's very sensitive to that.
They're hard to digest. I'm not going to lie.
Right. So now I'm on a regimen where we cleanse on the weekend, and I don't give him any supplements except for vitamin C because we're cleansing. So that assists with cleansing. And then on the 3 days a week, he takes his supplements, and then he gets 2 days off. So that's what we're doing, just because I don't know what else to do because he's so highly sensitive, as you are, Sarah.
Yeah.
So you probably understand, that it's a struggle. So we mean it when we say, really look into these vaccines. We don't like them.
Yeah.
we don't believe. And Sarah, you're awake. I mean, we are on the show. Everybody who listens to the show knows, the truth about vaccines. So hopefully they already know that, and they know about 9/11, and they know about all these things. And you're a curious person, so you're able to put those connections together and figure all that stuff out. What do you think, as we were talking a little while ago about people who don't kind of listen, or they just will tune certain information out? So what do you think it takes? What do you think you and I and Virstyne and all of us here are kind of like different? What does it take to become awake? What kind of personality?
I don't know. I've always been pretty open-minded, even when I was, really young. I was always very curious and questioning. So I guess it would take somebody who's, very curious and can put aside their beliefs, which is just hard to find in anybody. But, I mean, the only time I've noticed people wake up, and it's not necessarily, this doesn't necessarily have to happen, but, like the vaccines affected me. I woke up. Like, something earth-shattering has to happen for that person to wake up.
Right.
But I've noticed that doesn't happen all the time. I've seen people, get very sick and ill from the medical system and, just think it's normal. That it's okay.
Right. Go into stage 5 coma, basically. Go the other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess,
would you say that those people had some curiosity or no? Were they curious?
They're just highly asleep and sedated, and I think changing your diet really helps. I think that kind of clears your head automatically.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think anything that you do to, give you more of a healthy body, that'll automatically kind of open you up, because now you're not sort of blocked by all these medical issues, even if they're just small, like, not having gluten anymore, just, getting that out of your head. But go ahead.
That also kind of goes into all these chemicals that we're eating, not only keeping us unhealthy, but are they clouding our consciousness? Like the fluoride in the water and the GMOs
Absolutely.
and the sugar,
Yeah, I mean, I noticed whenever, changing my diet just made me smarter. I just felt
Yeah, definitely.
So,
and what do people, mostly Americans, eat in every morning? They eat like some kind of sugary, like a cereal, or they'll eat like a bagel or donut and coffee. And but the coffee has a lot of processed milk in it and sugar in it. Not that the coffee's bad itself, because coffee can be good, but it's like what,
Not if it's sprayed to high heavens,
Yeah, and so it's sprayed to high heavens, and then it's made with water.
There's chemtrails coming down on the food and water.
Yeah.
And
then there's water in the fluoridated water in the coffee with the sugar, in the styrofoam cup. If you want to have parent, I mean, like, you have to get
if people want to wake up, change your diet, and get a Berkey water filter. And change it.
Yeah. It's true, but it's funny how, but we've been affected by it, personally and physically and all that, and, so it just is kind of a weird thing that some people get it and some people don't, In our community, in the autism community, I see a lot of vaccine-damaged children, but not everybody wakes up to it, and even if they do, they kind of just don't. I don't know. They might say, well, yeah, I think my child regressed after vaccination, but then they still vaccinate, or then they'll, they still vaccinate them, or they and then they don't want to change the diet. They won't even talk about it. Some people like get mad at you for even bringing it up. Like,
I've had that.
Oh, I remember you told me about that. The babysitter, the parents, right?
Yeah, I didn't know this person personally. It was someone who was a babysitter that came to our house, and she said she was one of the family members. I guess the mother was a nurse, and she had asked her, do you have you ever tried changing the diet? I've seen some of the kids I babysit. It seems to help them, and she just got like angry. I don't want to hear any of that crap, and blah 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 blah. And so people get mad about it. It's just weird. So that's where we're kind of curious as to why. I'd say curiosity is a huge part of it. I haven't met anybody who's awake who doesn't have a great thirst for information and knowledge. But then there also seems to be like a willingness to accept that you were duped or kind of.
It's a self-esteem issue too, because you have to admit, a lot of people don't want to admit that they've been bamboozled or duped or, lied to.
And accept to because they change.
Yeah,
people
exactly.
don't want to change.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
Or they're afraid of ridicule. They're afraid of ridicule, I think, too, because sometimes I know that I've distanced myself from friends by just by some of the stuff that I put on my Facebook wall, And there was a part of me, I was like, am I being too, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Am I being too, like, aggressive, or am I making other people uncomfortable? And I was like, well, I just need to fucking get over it. Because there's also people that probably do have some of those same sentiments, but they're afraid to express them because they're afraid of what their friends are going to think. And it's like you never really leave high school, with the whole, like, popular thing and caring about what people think about you. So, like, I was like, well, maybe, people know my stance, and if somebody wants to come to me in the future, they can, I'm just leaving myself open for that, because I think that's what's more important, not making somebody uncomfortable. But then their shit makes me uncomfortable when they're talking about like how wonderful and amazing Obama and Hillary are, but they talk about how they hate war. Like I'm like, your shit annoys me. Like, or Miley Cyrus is something that I think that's really frivolous or petty, or gossiping about people.
The hypocrisy of it all.
Yeah.
And have you ever experienced that, Sarah? Like, has anyone defriended you, or like, any family members or anybody that you know personally who kind of got upset at you for talking about this stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had family definitely don't agree with my point of view or my mom's point of view, and I've had people on Facebook who I'm not even friends with. They just added me. I remember this one time I was talking about how, the reason why we're in the Middle East is oil. That's the only reason why, and that's why, Israel is involved and things like that. And this person, personally messaged me, I don't like the way you're talking about Israel, all people in Israel are bad. I'm like, if you read my post, you'd know that that's not what I was talking about.
Oh, I didn't read your post. They didn't even bother. They didn't, yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that the people get, their knickers in a twist. They didn't even read your post. They didn't even really read the article or watch the video that you posted. They're just upset because, there's a buzzword that, really triggers them and pisses them off, and then they have to cuss you out or something. But yeah, I've had that happen with, family, and, my family does not agree with the way I'm treating, my vaccine injury. They look at us like we're crazy when we say it's the vaccine.
Well, do they have any
why we won't go to,
Do they have any suggestions as to what you should do?
Go to a hospital and go to, a medical doctor.
Oh, hell no!
Because they know everything.
Yeah.
They know everything. They're
Just
God.
do what the doctor says. Trust the doctor. Do what they say.
I'm just going to blindly follow the blind. It's like, I didn't, it's annoying because it's like, didn't you see me that, it was pretty dire, and I tried the whole Western medical thing, and it just didn't work out. I gave it the college try, and, it got really dire. You don't remember that?
You remember that's why I'm in this position in the first place?
That's why I'm in this position in the first place. It's like, it's just odd because, I spent, summers with them, and, and it's just like, didn't you see me when I was a kid? And I was, like, completely healthy and there was nothing wrong. And then just, like, out of the blue, I just get sick. Like, really? So, I mean, it's ridiculous.
I actually want to do my family reunion is coming up this year, and I want to do a presentation on vaccine and health and stuff. So
I've thought of that.
I wonder how
I've
that's
thought of that so many times.
Huh?
I've thought of that so many times. Just, like, I'm going to make a PowerPoint presentation, and then they're going to get it. And it's just going to be easy.
Well, I think some people, it would give them something to think about, because I don't think anybody in my family is really thinking on that level, and I know that, I know some people that would just be like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting that you think that way, and then some people might be outraged, and, whatever. I don't see them, I don't have to go, I only see them once every, I don't know, how many ever years I choose to see them, but I think that, hopefully I'll get through with some people. I'm not expecting to get through to everyone, so I'm just gonna see how that goes, But I think you got to make the information available. That's the thing that's messed up, is that people don't have the choice. They don't have the freedom of the information, really. We do because it's out there, but people are being forced to accept only one side of the story and not, the other side.
Yeah.
Well, also, I gave my, side of the family, the information, and they didn't want to hear it because it's not peer-reviewed. That's the other thing. If it's not peer-reviewed, then they don't want to hear it.
Right.
But
sometimes it is, though, and sometimes there are a lot of peer-reviewed studies when it comes to vaccines, and there's a lot of information on the vaccine, if you isolate the ingredients that are in the vaccine and all that information, but they still don't necessarily want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of the research that I used to do when I used to do the videos and things, I would just get it from the pharmaceutical manual. I'd be like, I'm going to read this because they can't refute what they admit themselves.
Yeah.
It's like if Merck says it's in there,
it's in there.
And if they tell you that they've done these studies and this is how they've conducted these studies, and then they show you the the damage that it's done to certain people in the control groups, even though those control groups, the way that they conduct them are total bullshit. They're not like real control groups as we know. But even with, like, so in other words, like, at their very best, when they're trying to cover up their information, they still end up revealing how these things aren't safe and how they're not effective. They can't help but to reveal it because it's so obvious. And, you know, if you look at the vaccine answer, and anyone can do this, it's not, you know, you don't have to be that smart. You can go to the CDC's website, take your pick of any vaccine you're interested in researching, and go find and get the PDF. It'll give you the vaccine insert. You read it. You don't just read the abstract or the conclusion. You read the stuff in the middle. And you go in and it says, you know, this is what's in it. So, okay, those are the ingredients.
And then
what
you
does
go
this
look
do
them
to
up.
the body?
Yep.
You go look them up.
That's exactly what I did. That's the first thing that I did, and that's what really, that was probably the second thing that, I mean, I already knew it, but that was the second thing that woke me up. I just looked up the ingredients and found, you know, those were a lot of my symptoms, a lot of my problems. So I'm like, okay, it's vaccines. And, you know, CNN, Fox, and, you know, who supposedly have research analysts aren't talking about it. So there's obviously an agenda.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah,
it's not logical.
It's simple, but I've seen people, like, I saw this pro-vaccine page that lists the ingredients in vaccines, and they're like, well, these are the things that are in vaccines that actually make them safe. So it's still like people are going to see what they want to see at the end of the day, you know?
Right.
And it's either a choice to either empower themselves or disempower. Empower yourself or disempower yourself. And going back to the thing about the peer review thing, about information being peer reviewed, that's fucking bullshit, because people put all of this, you know, give all this praise to doctors and scientists, and, you know, they are reluctant to admit that they're human, they're people, they're subject to error, they're subject to corruption, they're subject to being bought off, or they're subject to laziness. You know, just be like, oh, I know this dude, I don't need to, I'll just check it off, you know? And, I know this guy, I don't have to read his paper, he's a friend of mine, we played golf together, he wouldn't lie, you know? Hey, oh, everybody or he's cute, you know? Aesthetics and, you know, attraction plays into a lot of how people gain power, which, you know, we don't want to admit. So if this doctor's handsome and cute and, you know, can charm his way through certain circles, there are people that probably won't even, you know, he'll say jump and they'll say how high. Like I was looking at this one guy. Have you heard of a Hendrik? I don't know if I'm saying his last name right. Hendrik Schoen? I think it's Schoen. Have you heard of this guy?
No.
He's a scientist that was doing, supposedly doing all of these, like, experiments and making all of these amazing breakthroughs in nanotechnology, and he was publishing, like, a paper a week, and he had everybody in the physics community was, like, in awe of him. They're like, oh, he's the next Einstein, he's a genius, oh my god, he publishes so many papers, wow, his findings are amazing, and his papers are peer-reviewed, and he got 2 prestigious physics awards, maybe even 3, before they found out that he was a fraud. He, like, lied about, like, everything. Had his PhD revoked. It was terrible. But yet he's a scientist, and yet his stuff was peer-reviewed, you know. And then, I mean, this happens a lot. This is a pretty big case, I think, in that situation. But people fucking lie about, like, everything. Like, I know people that have lied on that have been in situations or wrote articles in Wikipedia, and they've made stuff up, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I don't know why.
Right, it's true, and it's funny, does it work the other way, too? Because you're saying, like, if somebody's charming and they're aesthetically pleasing, I mean, if you take Andrew Wakefield, very good-looking man, very gorgeous,
hot.
You know, tall, great voice.
Very attractive.
I mean, very attractive physically, but he's also very articulate, and he's very charming, and he's kind. He's just like a solid person if you've ever been around him. But even you can even tell in his interviews that he's humble and he's gracious and all of that. So do you think that may play into also where you want to attack somebody because you're going to go after somebody like that because they know, well, this guy is going to get attention. People are going to listen to what he says because he's smart, he's researched, he's articulate, he's educated, and not only that, but he's actually using his knowledge to help people. And, you know, and so a lot of people are going to listen to him because of all those things. And so in other words, like, if you can take someone like Dr. McCullough, who's always been on the fringe, they can kind of just go, he's crazy, he's a quack, blah, 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 blah. But then if you take someone who, like Andrew Wakefield, who was a mainstream doctor, but then kind of figured something out, you know, is that I don't know, you know, do you think he was like an easy target in that way?
I think he was more of an easy target because he was just really naive. And like, honestly, and I think the doctors that went after him were probably jealous. He probably got more attention. You know, people, they're still people. So, like, I was looking at Paul Offit, our favorite guy. I'm still astounded over that lecture that he gave talking about vaccine science. And it was called Communicating Vaccine Science to the Public, and he never communicated a single, like, iota about vaccine science at all. And in fact, he made fun of Dr. Wakefield in that lecture. He was talking about his charming British accent and how handsome he was. And obviously Paul Offit isn't either of those things, you know. And I was like, are you player hating? Are you a bit jealous, you know? And in fact, he didn't even do what he was supposed to do in the lecture. He just basically, you know, insulted Andrew Wakefield's physical features, not even, you know, what his work necessarily, well, maybe a little bit his work.
Wait, hold on. He insulted Andrew Wakefield's physical features?
Yeah, he was just like, oh, he's just really handsome guy, and, you know, how is it hard to, like, how hard is it, you know, or it must be really easy for him to win favor because he's so handsome and he has that charming British accent. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, you know,
well, that was kind of my point, is like then it went the other way in that sense that, you know, because he was trying to sort of make it seem like, well, you would only listen to him because he's good looking, not because he's smart or has any good research. His research is excellent.
Yeah. No, it's true. I see what you're saying, but at the same time, that's also an insult to the people. But he's a very arrogant fuck. He always likes to tell people, he thinks he knows best and he wants to tell people what to think. So if you're saying, well, oh, you're only listening to him because he's handsome and he's charming, then you don't know what you're doing because, oh, you can't help yourself. Your feeble little mind doesn't understand. You know, to me, that's very, if people can see through that, you can see that he's being really condescending, actually, by saying that. But I see what you're saying, April, too. I mean, but in the scientific community, I think it's more worthy to be of brains and not of looks, so. But
right.
it still works.
They wouldn't be talking about looks, they'd just be focusing on
the
research.
Yeah, exactly. And
it wouldn't be, you know, high school. It wouldn't be, you know.
Yeah.
Or things that are irrelevant to what they're trying to talk about. Yeah. You know, but we've seen this in our community a lot, where they do these disinformation campaigns and they go after people who talk about it and who actually do research and who just look at it and want to present what they've found through their research, you know, and then but instead of going after their research, they go after them personally, and that's how you kind of trick the public. But then people who aren't, I guess, critical-minded, instead of seeing through that and going, well, why are they attacking him personally? They go and say, well, you know, I don't want to be someone who listens to a quack, so I'm going to jump on board and attack them and continue to attack them as well, you know. It's really disheartening in a way. I mean, we like to think that people are waking up more and more, but then you still see how it's not really happening in a lot of ways, and some people are going deeper into a coma. It's like, it's weird, you know, but I don't know, but I mean, you know, I just thought I'd throw that out there because, as we know, you know, Sarah, you're awake on a lot of these issues and you woke up through the vaccine. But then why did you then want to go down and look at other things as well? You know, like I brought up 9/11, you know. How did you go from being vaccine damaged to then going into looking at that kind of stuff?
Well, to me it was just the next logical step is just like if, you know, people can get away with poisoning the children of the world, you know, really, what else can they do? I'm curious, what else are they doing? It's just mainly curiosity for me. But, you know, the next thing, it really just kind of progressed. I went through the vaccines, the pharmaceutical industry, then to Operation Paperclip, where, you know, we brought Nazi scientists over, the people who, you know, did these heinous tests on these, you know, concentration camp victims, these horrible medical tests. And then straight to MK Ultra, Kennedy, 9/11, chemtrails. And then I kind of hit the reptilians, and I'm like, no, this can't be. I can't deal with this. And then I researched it anyway, and, it could be. It's a possibility. I'm not saying it's definitive yes, but it could be. And, Freemasons and more of the esoteric side of astrotheology and things like that. But for me, it was just really, it was curiosity, and everything just seemed more logical after waking up to the vaccines. Just things started to make more sense. It was like I could see things more clearly. So it was like after seeing the vaccines, it's like, oh, well, they're poisoning other people too. Or, what's this stuff in the sky? What are they spraying? Everything just seemed to be interconnected in a way. And it just made more sense after being awake.
Yeah.
It was more logical.
Just kinda, exactly, yeah. It's more logical. That's the thing, is that, once you start to see all these connections and everything. And so, I guess, too, when we had you on before, you were we asked you if you thought that this was all kind of deliberate. And so I guess you sort of answered that question, because just now, when you connect it to the chemtrails and you connect it to these other things, then there certainly seems to be a direct sort of eugenics.
Yeah, eugenics, yeah. Just listen to Bill Gates' presentation. It'll tell you, he's not even, veiling what he's saying. He's saying, oh, well, vaccines are going to make people healthier because it's going to get rid of people on the planet. It's going to, it's going to reduce the population to this certain amount.
Yeah.
He just comes out right and says it.
It's so funny, though, because I've gotten into so many arguments about people with that. They still see what they want to see, and they probably say the same thing about us, but I think because we've done more, we see more connections into what he's saying, we understand, what he's implying. But, there are people that listen to that speech and they'll swear down that he's not saying that,
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
yeah,
crazy.
if you take that as an isolated event, it probably would be easy to explain it, but when you look at everything, it's in your face. And if you see all of that and you see all of the connections, then you're choosing to be asleep. Right?
Yeah. Maybe some people want out. I listen to a lot of people kind of like, I don't know, scientists or doctors on I don't know what you would call it, the fringe of spirituality, or I don't really know the word or term I'm looking for, but I've listened to a couple of people that said that we're going through a shift in the human race, and there's some people that aren't going to wake up because they don't want that experience here. They don't want, they're more they're just comfortable being asleep. And I don't know if people believe in when you die your soul goes somewhere else, but they said they're going to evolve somewhere else where they'll still continue to be in that that state of mind, right?
I've
where they're
heard
still
that.
just empowered.
Yeah, I think that has some truth to it.
Yeah.
Reincarnation is real, and yeah, I think that there are some people who just want to be asleep and that really don't want to evolve.
Right.
Yeah.
And
well, not now. Maybe it's not their time. Baby steps.
Yeah, it could just be they're not ready. Everybody wakes up when they wake up.
And we talked. We had a really interesting conversation with Vinnie Eastwood, and we were talking about how you can't wake people up.
Yeah.
How you and then going back to how we woke up. It took me years, I guess. And now that I reflect on my life, I see people, I remember people trying to tell me things, and I was like, what? Oh my God, no, And now I'm like, oh my God, they were trying to wake me up, and I was totally not having it. And I don't think I was ever a mean jerk. I think I made jokes or just like, oh, come on, man, not really taking them seriously. I was never I never called anybody a conspiracy theorist or,
right.
or slurred them or degraded them for their beliefs. As long as they weren't hurting, saying that they wanted to hurt people, that's where I draw the line, when you're just preaching hate and saying you want to hurt people, you want to exterminate a certain race of people, or, that's crazy to me. But other than that, people were trying to wake me up to a lot of the things that I know now. They were trying to tell me, and it just didn't make sense at the time, or I don't know where my state of mind was, where I wasn't open to that information. But, you know, maybe some of the information that we spread out, it would, you know, they might hear it from us one time, or we might be the second person or the third person before they actually decide to be like, aha, you know, have that eureka moment.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Everybody in due time, and it kind of comes in stages, I think, for a lot of people as well. Because I mean, looking back, and I've talked about this on the show before, I've had moments of clarity, I guess, even before the vaccine damage hit my son. You know, there were things that sort of triggered in me. A lot of it came from my dad. You know, things that he would say. And you know, when you're a kid, you don't really listen to your parents, but you kind of do. And then it's sort of like you don't think you're listening to them. You think that they're annoying you. But then when you have, later on you kind of reflect on what they said, and you realize that maybe they did kind of sink in. And so he taught me about, without realizing it, about, you know, to question the JFK thing and to kind of question the false right-left paradigm of, you know, the Republican-Democrat thing, you know, because I remember talking to him about that, and he was like, I don't vote Republican or Democrat, I just vote for the person. And I don't vote at all anymore, like, I don't even vote any of that stuff.
But at the time when you're like, ooh, like, it was really
well, at the time it was shocking, a little bit, but it was also sort of disheartening, because as a little kid, you want, like, answers. You want things to be black and white.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want it to be like, well, I don't know what 2 + 2 is, you know, maybe it's this or that. You know, it was like that simple to me. It was like, you're either this or this, aren't you? And he was like, no. And he goes, I don't do that. I don't care about that. I don't look at that. And I was like, well, you kind of lean towards one, don't you? And he's like, well, no. And I was like, well, okay, well, what do you have? I mean, I was looking for something concrete. I wanted there to be a solidified answer, and he didn't give me that. And so that was early on, lesson in critical thinking. And I didn't, you know, I wouldn't have thought of it at the time, but later, you know, it stuck with me. I remembered it my entire life, even though I was probably like 10 years old at the time, you know. And so I think it does kind of come in stages, and then all of a sudden, once you do have that moment where something like a vaccine injury happens, all those things kind of start flushing back and coming back to you. All these things that maybe you questioned, you know, down the road here and there, you start to going, oh, okay, then that's what that was, or maybe that's what, you know, it just, or maybe that's connected to this, and then you find out that, you know, all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah.
They're all connected, you know. It's so anyway, it's an interesting thing that we like to, I guess, get into, because sometimes it's lonely when you're a truther or you're in this movement, and because you feel isolated, but we do find a community, you know, with each other, and that's what I guess we're hoping will grow is a community of people that, you know, we don't always have to agree with everybody just because they're a quote truther and they, you know, question official narratives, but at least we can kind of agree that, you know, it's not all that it appears, or, you know, that there's something different than, you know, what we've been taught.
Well, we have the same goals as far as just being thriving human beings who want to be empowered and want to be in charge of our own destiny, you know.
And in a clean environment and a healthy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, no clowns.
Yeah. These clowns are creepy. We would like to.
No clowns. All clowns. Now I'm okay.
And no rock colors.
I think I offended clowns. There's clowns that are listening that are like, oh, how dare she? How dare she?
All right. Well, let's just say, you know, maybe not all clowns are bad, but no, but they're all creepy. So, yeah, you know, I know that we only have an hour with you today, Sarah, but it's been a pleasure as always, and you're certainly welcome to come on the show anytime you want.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we love to have you, and you're just your friend, and we care about you, and we know you personally, and we just really appreciate you being a voice for people with vaccine injury, and you know, but you've gone past that too. That's what the point I guess I was trying to make is that you've expanded on that. You weren't just a victim and just said, oh, you know, you had the curiosity and the intelligence to look past that and to look into more.
Yeah.
And so we really appreciate that. And so thank you so much, and remind everybody where your blog is and they can find you.
Yeah, my blog is sarahshealingjourney.wordpress.com, and you can find me on Facebook as well. My Facebook is tagged on my blog as well.
There you have it. So everybody hang in there. We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to close out the show. But we love Sarah. Thank you so much, girl.
Thanks. Love you guys.
Love you too. Bye.
I was on holiday with Sir Laurence Olivier. We had decided that 9/11 was an intelligence operation. We'd all known about JFK, he had so many mistresses. The CIA shot him. Castro could never have done it. It was clear. We had become realists, conspiracy realists. How would we let everyone know was the question. We decided to buy T-shirts that told the contents of our hearts and minds to the world. We went to shop.truthertees.com. Even though the internet hadn't been invented at the time, we went to shop.truthertees.com. There we purchased Conspiracy Realist T-shirts, one of a kind, sold only at shop.truthertees.com. 100% cotton in men's and women's fitted sizes. I won't tell you which one I'm wearing.
Hi, welcome back. Thanks for listening to Truth Your Talk. Thanks for hanging in there with us. So, hey, Virstyne.
Hey, April. That was great. I always like talking to Sarah.
Yeah, she's really good, and we're glad to introduce her. We hope that you guys at the our UCY TV family now know who Sarah is, because she's a part of our group. She's a part of Truth Your Talk, and she's a good person. So we hope you go check her out, sarahshealingjourney.wordpress.com. And as we talked about with Sarah, and we talked about at the beginning of the show, this whole, Gardasil thing is just a disaster and a horrible, horrible, horrible system. So, I don't know. I mean, you did some extensive research on vaccines. What was it that you found out about the measles outbreak? Didn't you say that there was...
Oh, the last one?
Yeah.
Maybe there was one before that. I think the one that I looked up, 2010, that the outbreaks that happened were among the vaccinated. And among a few cases I found out, and this is from the CDC reports, that the people that got the measles, the outbreak occurred in majority of vaccinated people.
Right.
So, that actually surprised me. It was like, I think 2010, it was like 53 people out of 54 were vaccinated. Like that, like almost 100% of the people already had vaccinated. Already had two vaccines too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because I know there was an outbreak, I forgot the year, I don't know off the top of my head, that the CDC reported. It was like, it was a measles outbreak, but at that time, they're like, oh, well, they needed, these people only had one dose of the measles vaccine. So, it was implied that maybe the outbreak happened because they needed a booster shot and they needed a second vaccine. But then after that, the next one that occurred after that, this group of people had their boosters too.
Ugh. Yeah.
But then they have the nerve to say, but the measles vaccine is still the best way to prevent a measles outbreak. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? How dare you? Like the flu shot you were telling me about, that boy that died, and then after they did this whole story, they still have the nerve to say the flu shot is the best the best way of preventing the flu. And it's so funny, before I woke up to all this, I would take the flu vaccine every year. Shame to admit, because I'm asthmatic and I have I had a terrible immune system. It's getting way better than it used to be now. But at the time, it was recommended that people that had autoimmune disorders take the flu shot because it would help our immune systems to ward off colds. And I would always, always, always get sick, like right after I took the shot. And I would go back to the doctor, and they said, well, you're not really getting the flu. It's your body. I'm like, what the fuck? I have a fever. I'm puking. I'm aching. I mean, you don't mean I don't really have the flu. What's the difference? Please tell me.
Right.
And I just stopped. Oh, I'm sorry. I just stopped taking it. Now along with other lifestyle changes, but I think not taking the flu vaccine has helped a lot with my immune system becoming better.
It's true. I mean, they'll claim like it's not the same thing. It's not the flu, but it's like, it's so funny. I mean, but then you have all the exact same symptoms. So as I was talking before when I was saying, you know, if you have the Gardasil vaccine, and then they say, well, it will protect you against these 4 strands, but then if you get one of the other strands, you know, then they'll say, oh, well, it must be one of the other strands. They'll claim that, but then how would you know unless you actually went through the trouble to test which strand it was? You know, and most people don't. I mean, they probably didn't even tell you that. They would just go, oh, it's not the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then send you home, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it can't possibly be because we vaccinated you against the flu. So it couldn't possibly be the same thing. But either way, you know that the flu vaccine got you sick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so funny because over the years I remember people would tell me about the flu vaccine, and even before I was awake to vaccines in general, I knew the flu vaccine was a hoax. I just knew because I never took one in my entire life, and
You survived. You're alive.
Lo and behold, and I don't, and you know, it's funny is that I don't get the flu either, so how's that? But I mean, I get sick once in a while, but I don't get the flu. But anyway, but how would I know?
Yeah.
Well, I don't exactly, because I don't go to the doctor and get tested for every stupid little thing there is, you know. And I hate when people do that. I hate when my kids get sick, and then the teachers are there. Oh, did you take them to the doctor? No, for what? What are they going to do? You know, I mean,
charge you money and tell you that, you know, get
you
your
go home and drink.
Huh?
They'll tell you to go home and drink fluids, you know, and take NyQuil or whatever,
Yeah.
you know. It's like, they don't have anything to help you.
Yeah.
And even if they did, you know, you know, get the flu shot next time. I ain't doing that, and that's never going to happen. So, anyway. But we actually don't have a doctor who's like that.
Didn't Piers Morgan take the flu shot on air and got sick afterwards?
Oh, yeah.
Did he do that?
He did, and he took the flu shot on air because why? Probably because his advertisers are pharmaceutical companies. So because they did that on Regis and Kelly. It's not Regis and Kelly anymore because I guess Regis retired. But they used to make poor Regis take his flu shot, and then they had Kelly Ripa do it, and they had the guy who replaced Regis is that old football player.
He's a football player. I don't know.
His name is Michael Strahan, I think, is the guy. And so then they said, "Are you going to get your flu shot on air?" He's like, "Oh hell no, I'm not getting that thing." And then he went on to say, "You know, I never got it when I was playing football, and all the other guys would get it, and they would all get sick, and I wouldn't." He went on to say,
"Oh wow, I'm glad he did that."
Yeah, and it's funny, the same thing with the Piers Morgan show is that then Piers Morgan got it, he got sick, like within days or a week later or something, he got the flu, and he was sick, and he was on air, and he had on the country singer Dwight Yoakam, and Dwight Yoakam was like, "Don't get that flu shot again." He goes, "I don't believe in it. I don't trust the vaccination program." I was like, "Yeah, that's right, awesome."
What did he say? What did he respond to that?
I think he was kind of like backing it because he felt that he had gotten sick. He was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'll do that again." He's like, "Don't do that again because I'm telling you that's what got you sick." And so Piers Morgan was kind of like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm really sick." And I know we're all laughing because
he's so stupid. That's so bad. I said I'm gonna stop calling people stupid.
I know, but he is.
Yeah, he's. Maybe he'll wake up. Maybe that, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I think there's hope for people. There are people that are becoming more, and I guess when I say wake up, I'm just, when I use that term, I don't know, I think about saying wake up, and it seems kind of cultish, a little bit. But I guess if you really explain it, you just want people to become more conscious of the world around them and how it works. And there are a lot of people that are just accepting things and letting people tell them to do things that aren't necessarily healthy for them, and they're not really aware of what they're doing or how it's affecting them and how it's affecting the world around them. I guess that makes sense. So maybe his show is canceled. Maybe he'll take some time, take some rest. Maybe he'll think things over. Maybe, you know, you never know. I mean, I was a zombie years ago, you know. A lot of this information I know now, people have been trying to tell me, and it took me a while to really figure it out. So I think that they're, you know.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. I mean, you know, like you say, it's you know, do they will they figure it out? When it comes to Piers Morgan, I kind of get the impression that he's gosh, how do I put this? Like he just wants to be famous. I don't really feel that he's that sincere about the things that he talks about. I feel that it's more that he's
an egomaniac and
he really, really wants to be in the spotlight. He really, really wants to be famous. He really wants to be relevant. So he talks about things that are going on, like with the whole gun thing. I mean, maybe he believed it, but I really think that because it was a hot button issue, he took a side and he went with it. You know what I mean? He really, really, and he went with it because that was his key audience. Maybe he believed that in gun control. Maybe he thought he was sincere about it. But I think he wanted the ratings, and he's very irrelevant. Like if you really look at the things that he talks about and his work and the things that he's done, he's not really a reporter. He's not really anything. He's just a guy with a British accent that talks. And he doesn't really have that much to say. So, I just feel like he's kind of got an ego and it wants him to be in the spotlight. And so these guys, that pay him his salary said, take this shot on air. So he did, and then he got sick. So,
but maybe he'll reflect on that. I don't know. I want to.
Maybe give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Sure.
I'm not betting money on it, but,
Well,
you can't let